Okay, so in today video we will see like how we can make use of Fluent validation library in order to perform validation. Okay, so basically we have different approaches to perform validation, and today we will be using the library that is Fluent validation, and with the help of that we will perform the validation. We will see how we can make use of Fluent validation. So if we see what is Fluent validation, here description we have is Fluent validation is a popular .NET library. It is just a library. So all we need to do is we just have to install it in our project, and then we are good to start using this library. So it is a popular .NET library used for defining and executing validations. Okay, so it will help us in performing the validation rules. So in a fluent and expressive manner, it allows developers to define validation rule for their object. So we will definitely create a class, we will have the properties inside that, and then we will perform validation on those properties we will have in our class using a fluent validations, and that basically we can do with the help of Fluent API. Okay, so we don't have to worry about this API and all. Automatically that will be handled by Fluent validation library, so making the code clean, readable and maintainable. Fluent validation is a free .NET library, so you don't have to pay anything. You can simply go to the Nugget package manager, and from there we can install this. That helps us quickly and easily implement validation rule. With Fluent validation, you create a separate public class for your rules, encouraging maintainability and preventing code blot issues. Eventually, it is nothing but will be helping us in order to perform the validation. So with the help of this library, we can implement the validation rules. So this is what basically we have a little bit description about the Fluent validation. Let's go and see how basically we can make use of Fluent validation practically. Just to save the time, I have already created a model called a student. Okay, and in that, if you see, we have certain properties like I have ID, then name, age, mobile number, ready for interview. It is like, I am trying to collect the detail of a student so that an interview can be scheduled for that student. So for that purpose, collecting these informations, and if user choose ki okay, I am ready for interview. If user or students say ki true, the value of true, in that case we will say okay, tell me what is your preferred time, and definitely it should be in future. So we can perform different validations on these properties, and here I hope you already know now that with the help of Fluent validation we are going to perform validation on these properties. So for now, if I simply I will go and let me remove this. I will just basically nothing is printed, so I can simply create object like a student. A student equal to new student, and then I have to pass the value. Okay, so now since this constructor is parameterized, so I will be passing these many values. So first one is ID. So suppose I am passing 0. Okay, definitely we know 0 should not be a valid ID, but for now I am able to pass. Likewise, name I can pass empty string, age I can pass 0, mobile number I can pass empty string, and then ready for, so true or false, any value. For now assume true, and then preferred time, so anytime maybe I can say new date time, and in here I can say maybe 2023, then October, and then any random value, maybe 12th. So 12th October 2023, and definitely today the date is 19th July 2024. This is a past time, and it is not possible that we can schedule an interview for the past time. Obviously it should be the future, but you see currently I am not getting any error. Okay, if I run this, since I am not printing any values anywhere, so definitely it will not show anything. But don't you think these are not the valid informations, and definitely we should have some validation on this, so that we are going to achieve using validation. Okay, so how we can perform validation? First of all, in order to use the Fluent validation, we have to install Fluent Validations library. Here it is coming. I will remove all the unnecessary one, or let me control dot, then I will remove unnecessary usings. That's it. So first thing, in order to perform the Fluent Validations, you have to go to the dependencies in the project, right click, and then say add Nugget package manager. So here it is, manage Nugget packages, and in the browse section you just have to search for Fluent Validation. So search Fluent Validation, and I am getting this, the one on the top. This one basically we can make use. In fact, you want to go with core, then you can go with this also, Fluent Validation ASP.NET Core also. For now, we will consume this library, Fluent Validation. So just click on this and install this. It will take some time, and then this one will be installed in our project. Okay, so as soon as it will install, immediately this install button will change to uninstall button, okay, which represents this package has been successfully installed. You can see it is changed now, and this is the version which I am able to install. If I expand the packages in this, you can see the Fluent Validation package is installed with this version 11.9.2. so this is the first step that we have to do. After that, if we want to perform the validation, we have to perform a separate class, okay, and then we will be writing all the validation rule in that class. So we have the student object. Let's create here another class. We can say public class, or any name we can give. Maybe we can say a student validator. Okay, this is a random name I have taken, since we are going to write validation rule inside that, and that's why I'm writing a student validator. Okay, and for this one, then the another thing that we have to take care is this class must be inheriting abstract validator class from Fluent Validation package. So colon is the way we using which we basically inherit, and then as I told you, abstract validator, which is coming here. Okay, and definitely this class is coming from where? This class is coming from Fluent Validation, means you must be installing the library Fluent Validation first, then only you will be able to use this class. Otherwise you will not be able to access this class. And then it uses generic, so inside that we have to tell we want to perform validation on which class. Okay, so basically currently I want to perform on a student, so I just have to write the name of this class a student. That's it, and nothing else. We are done. Then we have to write our logic. We can write basically maybe in the constructor is the preferred way that we follow. So you can write here, in order to write the constructor, simply we can write CTOR and press tab. This is a shortcut of creating the constructor. So we have created the constructor, and now inside that we can write the validations for all the properties for which we want, and whatever the property we want to write. Okay, so for now, let's suppose I want to perform some validation on ID. Definitely, if ID, definitely it should not be the negative and 0. It should be positive number. So for that, let me go and simply I will write a rule 4, and inside that we have to write the lambda expression. So let's say X implies X dot. I want to write for which? I want to write for ID. So simply I will choose ID here. Okay. And now this rule, what we have to specify like this as a lambda expression, and in that we have mentioned ID, means this rule we are going to write for ID, and then we can write by dot that what rule we want. For example, suppose I want this to be a positive number, okay, not 0, not negative. In that case, simply we can choose here greater than, and inside that I will write 0, means the number ID can be 1, 2, 3, anything it can be. Currently I have taken it as integer. Okay, so it could be any positive integer, and now by performing this validation we are saying no, the value of ID should not be either negative or 0. It should always be the positive number greater than 0. So here greater than 0 rule automatically will be applied. We don't have to do anything. Now Fluent Validation API will take care of everything and will perform this validation on ID. Here we simply have to write a message. Now if this validation get fail, then what message we want to display? So for that you have to write with message. So here is the message that simply we can write, and in that we can write any meaningful message. Maybe we can write like the value for id should be greater than 0. So as soon as somebody will try to provide the value of id as 0 or negative, immediately this validation will fail, and then user will be rendered this error message. Okay, so this is the validation we have written. Along with that, suppose now we have also we want to perform validation on a name. Okay, so how we can perform? Same way we can write. So see how easy it is. Rule for, and then lambda expression we have to write. Maybe again we can write x implies x dot name, and then here we can say it should not be empty. So if someone try to, you can see we are trying to pass empty, and it should not be a valid. So we can write here it should not empty. Okay, we can write like this. So now if the value of this name will be empty, immediately a message, one error will be displayed, and that name must not be empty. If you don't write with message, then this has a message called, a message name must not be empty, and that default message will be displayed to the user. Along with that, suppose I want to perform several what I can say, if I want to perform several validation on the same property, like I want to perform some rejects also. In that case, here only we can write like matches. Okay, and inside that we can write something like this. Then we can say add rejects. I hope you already understand. Upper caret represent the start of the string, and then name should always have characters only, not numbers and not special characters. So we can write a hyphen z, capital A hyphen capital Z, and a space can be there and nothing else. That's it. So, and the number of repetition can be any number of times, that will be represented by a star. So that this validation should also be applied. And if this validation, basically this regular expression we have written for to prevent the special characters and numbers. Okay, so if somebody will violate this rule, then they will be displaying, they will be getting this message like any meaningful message you can write here, that name should not contains special characters, special characters and numbers, like this. So this is the another validation we have written on that. So first it will check whether it is empty or not, otherwise it will give you the empty message. Along with that, it will give you the match if it is not empty, but we have given some values like here something like this. So definitely this is not a name, and in that case it will go and it will validate against this regular expression, and if it gets fail, user will get this error message that name should not contain special characters and numbers. Next we have is age. Okay, so suppose there is an student and who tries to give the interview. In that case we want to perform some validation on age also. So again, as usual, it will start for rule 4, then a regular expression, this lambda expression we have to write, and this time we want to write for age. So definitely it will be age, and then suppose we want to categorize the age range. Okay, so maybe we can say ki a student should be at least with 20 age. Okay, and greater should be maybe 60 age. Okay, so in that case we can say is inclusive between, and here we can say minimum age should be 20 and maximum should be maybe 60, I can say. Okay, and if this one gets fail, then what message you want, you can write here with the message, and you can give a meaningful message like age range should be between 20 and 60 only. like this. You can give more meaningful masses if you already have. So any meaningful masses can be given, and if this validation gets failed, automatically user will get this masses. Likewise, we have mobile number. So suppose I will write for mobile number also rule for, then we can say x implies x dot mobile number. And definitely we don't want this to be empty, so we can say not empty. Okay, and along with that, here also we want to perform some validations, like it should have exactly 10 digit. Okay, so in this we can use length, and then here we can write it should have 10, and then we can write let me split this. In here I will write length, and if this gets validated, then user will get with masses, and it should be the length of the mobile number should be exactly 10 digits, like this. Along with that, user can also give suppose 10 characters. Okay, in that case we have no validation. Suppose in here we can write like this, but do you think this is a mobile number? Suppose user typed 10 characters. Okay, 336 and 410, but this is not a mobile number, it should be only numbers, right? So we can write the validation for that also, like we can write the regular expression matches. Okay, and in that matches, basically we can write the regular expression what we want. Okay, so basically it should also, whenever we have to write, we write at the rate, and in that we can write. So a string starts with upper caret. Okay, and then we can write digits only, so backslash d represents digit. Okay, and then the number of occurrence should be exactly 10, and then dollar represents the end of the string. So if this get validated, then we can say here with the masses and a meaningful masses, we can tell that what we can say, mobile number should have exact 10 digits, or we can say should have exact 10 digits with no characters, or here I have already written with exactly 10 digits or slash numbers, I can say. Okay, means you are not allowed to put any special characters or carets. That's why we have written d, backslash d represent digits only between 0 to 9. Okay, anyone can be written. Okay, so this is the another validation we wrote on mobile number. Then let's go and write here ready for interview. Okay, here one challenging thing is that whether you are ready for interview. Now another property we have is preferred time. Assume if a student says no, I am not ready for interview, I don't want to give the interview. So if it choose false, in that case it doesn't make sense to check the validation on preferred time, because user should not give the time we are not expecting. Okay, so anything would be fine. Means what I'm trying to say, if a student say ki, okay, I am ready for interview, then only we want preferred time, that when user is ready, when a student is ready for the interview, that time we will take. If you just say no, I am not, then it doesn't make sense. So here I am trying to tell that if preferred time, we want preferred time only when ready for interview is true. Preferred time is depending on this value, this property. Okay, if this property has value true, then only preferred time should have some validation. So how we can write that? So it is a kind of dependency kind of thing. So in order to write that validation, we can again go for, but as usual we have been writing using rule for, but this time we will not use rule for. Instead we will use when, because it has some dependency. So in when we have to specify what condition we want first. So first we want ready for interview should be true, then only we should go. So we can write here lambda expression x implies x dot preferred not preferred time but ready for interview. Okay, so ready for interview is what is equal to true. If this is true, then only perform the validations that I am going to write. It means when this condition will met, then only this method, this rule, what I am going to write will be executing. Okay. So here lambda expression we have to write, and now we can write for the preferred time. Okay, so like for example, preferred time always should be in future. Okay, it should not be in the past. So we can write here, we can say rule for, and then x implies we want write the validation for preferred time this time. So we can say preferred time, and then here what we want it should be in future. So we can write greater than or equal to what, greater than or equal to at least today, right? So at least I can schedule interview today or in future. So here I will write date time dot now. Okay, so it should be greater than or equal to today. Okay, and then if this conditions violates, then we can say a meaningful message here that the preferred time should be in future. Okay, so this is what basically the validations we can write for the preferred time. Okay, and as you know, I hope you already understand when this rule will execute. This rule will execute only when the value for ready for interview is true. If it is false, then this condition will be false. In that case, this rule will not execute. We will see practically, we will execute the code and I will show you. So now we have written the validation for all the properties. It's time to test whether it is working fine or not. So let's go to the program, and here we can write we have already initialized the student, then we will perform validation on this. Okay, so for that we have to instantiate this object also, a student validator. So simply here I will say a student validator, and I will write validator only equal to new, and then this one. So this is also a way of instantiating the object. This is a shortcut way. Okay, you can also write here something like this, new space a student validator. Okay, this is something that we have been following, but the new syntax is even you don't need to write again and again, and you are done. Okay, so we are done. Now we have implemented this. Along with that, we have to perform validations. So what we will do, we will write here validator dot validate, and which one we want to validate? We want to perform validation on this object, a student object. So we have to pass there, and then whatever the result it would have, we will store inside a variable called result. So this validator, this is the reference variable of validator class. Inside that we are calling a validate method, and we have to pass the object on which we want to perform validation. So we are doing, after validating, inside this either it will say ki, okay, everything is fine and no validation rule were violated, or if anything will violated, it will have all the error messages. Okay, so in now every things we will have inside this variable result. We can simply access this. So we can say if result dot is valid is true, it means whatever the value we have said, everything is valid. Okay, and none of the values are breaking the rules, everything is following the rules, and every value is valid, correct data is given. So if this is the case, then simply we can write a message ki your data is saved successfully, interview will be scheduled accordingly. Means whatever the date you given, if the panel is available on that day, interview will be scheduled. Means everything was fine, you passed the valid data, and that's why we are able to process your data. But if each valid has the value false, it means the validation was failed. So in that case, we will see what were all the validations which were failed. Okay, so in here simply we can write one for each, because at a time multiple validation error occur. So we can simply say for each and then the syntax of for each is where, let's say, error in result. Okay, because all the error we will have inside this result only. Okay, so result dot errors. Okay, so all the errors whatever we get inside this, we will get inside this, and then we are writing, and from here we will be printing. So CW tab represent console write line, and inside that we can say error dot error message. Let me see. Okay, I wrote something else. Let me correct this. Error dot error message, this one. So this one we will print. Okay, and we are done now. So currently let me pass all the valid value. Okay, so I will say, or else let me keep this as it is. Error dot error message. That's it. Let's run. So currently if we see, for ID we are passing 0. Okay, so if we are passing the ID as 0, okay, instead of checking all at a time, let's check one at a time. Okay, so we will first pass a value, a valid value. Maybe I can say 1 is the ID, then name we can say Amit, then age we can say 25, then we can say mobile number. It should be a meaningful number. It could be, let me have some 10-digit number. So it's a random number, 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 to 10. Okay, this is 10. Then we have ready for interview. We can say okay, true, and then date time. So new date time, and then let's give the future date. So here I can say 2024. Today is July, so I can say I want in July only, but I want 19 July is today, so I will say 20 July. Okay, so this is again in future, and we are done. So all the data we have given here is valid. In that case, no validation error will occur, and it will display this message. Let's run the code and check if we are getting that or not. So I have executed this, and here if we get the output, it says your data is saved successfully, a random message I am giving which represents like no validation error occur. So interview will be scheduled. Okay, no error we can see because all values were fine. Now let me intentionally make mistakes for every value one by one, so that we can see one at a time. So I will give some 0. Okay, definitely this is not a valid ID, and if you see the validation we have applied for ID is greater than 0. So this time we are expecting this error message should be displayed. The value for ID should be greater than 0. Let me run and check what we are getting. So if you see, we are getting the value for ID should be greater than 0. Okay, this is expected, and this is what basically we are getting. We are not getting the other error message. The reason is you will get error message only for those properties for which validation is failing. For Amit it is fine, other values are still valid, and that's why we are not getting error message for other values. Now let me make the name also empty intentionally. Now let's run and see what happens. So in this time we should get two errors. One is the previous value is already greater than ID should be greater than 0, because still it is 0, and this time in addition to ID, name is also invalid, and so we are getting the invalid message for name. Name must not be empty. One more thing, you see, name must not be empty. I didn't write anywhere name must not be empty. You can see I just wrote not empty, and corresponding to this validation rule I haven't given any message. This with message is for this validation. You can write for this also, otherwise if you don't write, in that case this one have a default message, and that default message is this only which is showing. Okay, name must not be empty. So this is what basically it is. Now let's check whether this validation is working or not. This time I will remove the empty, but I will write some number or a special character. But we know still it is not a valid name. Okay, so let's run and check what error we are getting this time. So ID as usual will remain as it is because it is still invalid. And if you see the rejects this time is working and saying name should not contains special characters and numbers, because this time this validation is failing, and we are saying whenever this validation will fail, in that case this message should be displayed, and hence we are getting this message here. Okay, so this is what basically we are getting. Next, let's go and check for age. Okay, so I will say here the age is 25. For age we told it should be between 20 and 60. Let's intentionally make it 10. Okay, which is invalid. Okay, I will make it 10, which is less than, which is not in the between 20 and 60, and we should get a message like, you know, age range should be between 20 and 60 only. Okay, so we are expecting this message. Also other two are invalid. Along with that, you know, the third property, that is age, and that also this time is invalid. So we should get, okay, let me stop this and let me run it again. So this time you see even we are getting for you know, invalid error for range also. Age range should be between 20 and 60 only. Likewise, let's keep doing the mistake for mobile number. Let's give this empty. So it will say mobile number must not be empty. You see, mobile number must not be empty, the length of the mobile number, because currently we have given the empty string. So by default the empty string has length 0, and that's why this validation is also failing. So we are getting this error message also, and here it is expecting digit. Okay, so if you see, we are getting mobile number should have exact 10 digits and number. Here it is an empty, but we have to know it should have 10 length. So here it is, this is also failing, and that's why we are getting all at once. So these two messages we have written. Okay, but this not empty, the one that you see here, mobile number, it is the default message coming from the Fluent Validation API, you can say. Okay, so this is how basically it is working. Let's give a valid okay, let it be invalid, or suppose I will give some number. Okay, I will type 10 character. So 3 and 3 6 7 8 9 and then 10. Okay, still it is invalid. This time it is not empty, so we will not get the error for empty mobile number. Okay, so here see, this time it says mobile number should have exact 10 digits and numbers. It is, you know, it is basically violating the rejects rule, this rule, and that's why we are getting this one, because we are expecting only digits. Okay, as soon as we give the digits, immediately, you know, this error will be gone. So if I correct it, let me correct this. I will give some valid 10 digits. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. Okay, this time we will get, still we will get error for these three properties, but not for mobile number, because this is a valid mobile number. And then you see the error message for mobile number gone, it is not present anymore. Okay, likewise we have a true, and then if it is a true, it should be this one, it is in future, and that's why we are not getting. Suppose today is 19th July, I will make it 18th July. Okay, so definitely this is the past time, and now we should get the error for this also, which is preferred time. So let me go and check whether we are getting error for this or not, and you see the preferred time should be in future. Okay, we gave it in the past. Okay, now as I told you guys, okay, this will have validation only when a student says ki, okay, I am ready for interview. You see this condition, if ready for interview has value true, then only it will check whether it is in future or not. If it is false, okay, for example, let me make false. You see, still this time is in past, and as soon as we make it false, it means now the you know, user is not it represents user is not interested in interview. Okay, false. So it doesn't make sense to go and validate this one. As you see here in this, we have written the logic that if this has the value true, then only perform validation. This time you see it has value false, and intentionally we have given the past time. Still we will not get any validation error message. You can see here. See, we are not getting. So it means if you have a dependency that if something should happen first, then only the further validation should occur. In that case, you should write validation like this using when you can write, and in that the first lambda expression you will write to meet that particular condition. If that condition meet, then only the further validation should execute. In that case, you should write like this. Okay. So this is what basically we had. Now if we make it true, again we will start getting, because for true only the validation will occur on this. And if we write, so we should get the error this time. Okay, let me stop, let me run it again. And you can see again we started getting the error for this one. Okay, so this is what basically the few validations I have shown you. Likewise we have lots of validations you can check. Like all you need to do is, suppose I want to show all the rules, so simply you copy anything, okay, and then hit dot, then automatically Visual Studio will start showing all the properties that you can, methods using which you can perform the validation, like cascade, child rules, configure, credit card, customer, equals. So here we have used few ones only, like greater than to check to the number is positive or not empty to check whether it is empty or not. Matches method present inside the fluent validation is used to write the reject, so that we have written here. Inclusive between is used to specify a particular range. Likewise length is there and others are there. Okay, so you can use these methods. Simply you have to put your conditions and you can perform the validations. So don't you think it's easier? So I hope you have now better understanding about the fluent validation. So that's it for today. Thank you.